Let's talk about star players, though. Mike, when you think about a top star player, the ideal star player in 2026, what qualities does this player have?
Yeah, so in direct contrast, I think, to head coach, where it took us a little while to get into like, oh, what's their tactical acumen or whatever, the strict X and O's. If you want to be a star player, you need to be an efficient bucket getter and bucket maker for teammates. I think that's like criteria number one. I'm happy to hear some pushback here, but if you're not able to generate a lot of points at a pretty high volume for your team, unless there are some very few exceptions, like you could be a literal like galactic level defender on like the Wembanyama level, and then you can get there otherwise. But if you're going to be like the bus driver on a championship team, like you just need to be able to generate offense for your team, for yourself, and for your teammates at a high level.
Jared?
Sorry, I was muted for a second. Yeah, I had one of the things that I had on there was just shot creation, whether it's for yourself or others. Like you absolutely have to be able to get shots for your team that go in the basket. Like I think I had one thing above that, which was just consistency. Like you got to be the same guy and bring the same effort every single day, or the other guys on the team won't do the same. Like you have to be able to set the culture that way.
No.
That goes to what I was going to say, which is actually be a culture setter, right? And like maintain the culture that's been set and having that understanding of where you can kind of be. Like KG's a great example. Was all those things. Bucket getter, in Minnesota, could score, could do everything, was unbelievable defensively. He's an absolute maniac. But the most important skill he had was policing the locker room and maintaining the culture that was set, to the point that when he got traded to Boston, Doc never had to do any of that stuff. Like I've heard Doc talk about it, where it's more just, I just got the coach. That was one less thing the coach had to worry about, right? Like I just got the coach, worry about X's and O's, rotations, everything we talked about. I always knew the locker room was going to be right because KG was going to make sure the locker room was right. He gave up shot creation and scoring as much, focused more on defense, but was the guy in the locker room. Remember, like he made Big Baby cry on the bench, right? Like, because he's trying to, again, continue to uphold the culture. How he does it, maybe a bit too far with some things. But like, I think having that ability to kind of, it's lead, right? Set the culture and lead is one of the most important things to being that guy. Brunson is a leader of the Knicks team, right? Like Shea leads the Thunder. Wemby leads this. There's no question about it, right? Like Luka's going to be interesting because now Luka has to lead this Laker team, right? And he's already doing it, right? Flying the whole team, private to Slovenia to work out with him. Would have been cheaper if he just flew to LA.
Except for Cameron Carr.
Like, maybe he's busy. Rookies got to fly their own.
It's the rookie symposium or whatever. He's not allowed to feel bad for him.
But having that sort of just ability to just like, I can galvanize guys and get them all going and get them all pushing in the right direction is really something I think that's important from your star player that you want to see from your star player.
Can I push back on that a little bit, though? I agree. It is important. Ideally, you would always get that. I don't know if it's necessarily required for short-term success. However, just because, think of it, so much of the time, I feel like the culture comes on the back of winning. And I think of, Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors, right? He was your best player. I don't know, based on some of the reports we've heard, that he was necessarily, the number one culture setter. I think you
have to talk to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, I think about some of the reports that have come out from Milwaukee after Giannis has left. Who knows how much of that's true, but about the horrible culture that had developed there under Doc Rivers and Giannis. Was that there when they won the championship or not? I'm not close enough to the team to say, but I do think a lot of the times it's we look back at the culture in retrospect and be like, oh, they have a good culture because they have won a lot of good games. And it's hard to tell when you're on the way up and you fall short if there was really a good culture there at all.
I'll push back though. Even when you look at that Raptors team, Kawhi was a mercenary. He wasn't the guy that they looked to as their leader. It was Kyle Lowry, right? Yeah. That was the guy that set that culture, and he was a star player on that team. Even the year the Bucks won the championship, Giannis was the culture setter. This is something that's kind of changed over the years with him, but you see it across the board though. your best player has to be your culture center. And maybe not your best player, but at least your second best player.
Sure.
In that regard. Like, to me, you have to have that. And to be a star player now, you definitely have to have it more so. Look at, you want to use Kawhi as an example. He came to the Clippers. Coincidentally, also Doc was there. No culture. That first couple seasons with the Clippers, like especially early on, when everybody was looking for him to lead, it didn't work. Like, he's a star player, but it wasn't something where, hey, we can count on Kawhi to police the locker room or whatnot. It's coming from guys like Patrick Beverley, where, let's just be honest, Paul George ain't going to listen to Patrick Beverley.
Right.
Like, Kawhi ain't listening to Patrick Beverley. Like, there's like a lot of that stuff. And this isn't a shot at him. It's just, you need that. And one of the reasons why that Clipper team failed over and over again, besides health, was they had nobody to really hold, nobody at a high enough level on the hierarchy of the players to hold that culture together. And that's why they ended up falling apart. That's why, to me, you got to be able, a star player, to be at the highest of levels, you got to be a culture setter.
It's one of the things I had written down. I had two things written down, but before I get to that, something that Jared said that I think is worth repeating here is the consistency. That is the superpower. Consistency is the superpower. We saw Corey Brewer score 50 points in a game. He's not a superstar. It's the superstar is the ability to be LeBron James and just score 27, 7, and 7 every single night and just put that together. It drives me crazy when I hear fans be like, if only this guy could be more consistent. And I was like, if that player was more consistent, that player would be an all-star. Or is that what you're asking for this player to be? Because
yes.
We can have that kind of conversation, but not all, like, we were talking about, we were talking about a guy coming off the bench. Like, what are we really talking about here? Consistency is the superpower. That's the superstar superpower. But the other thing that I want to get to here, and everybody talked about leadership, and I had that written down. That was the second thing. The first thing I had written down, and the more I thought about the top players in the league today, the more I came to this realization. You have to be a top 1% performer in one area on the court. I just think that's it. If you think about Jokic, top 1% passer. SGA, top 1% scorer. Giannis, top 1% rim finisher. Steph, top 1% three-point shooter. Wemby, top 1% defender. LeBron, top 1% engine. Like, these guys are top 1% performers on one specific, at the very least, one specific area on the court. And I think that what that allows for the rest of the team, when we're talking about on-the-court responsibilities, I like to use this example from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all the time. Because he is a one-man offense, it allows the rest of the Thunder to be awesome defensively, right? It makes it so that we all like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. I don't think any of us think those guys can carry an offense at championship level. They don't have to, because SGA is doing it. So it allows the rest of his Thunder teammates to just be awesome defensively. And what do you get? You get this awesome Thunder team that is good enough offensively and very, very good defensively, and that doesn't work without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander there. So that's just one of those examples, but you can literally say that about Jokic, Giannis, Wemby. Because of how great Wemby is defensively, I think the best version of the Spurs is going to be when Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle or one of these guys pops into the guy who can actually carry the offense. They're very good now, but they're not quite there yet. That's going to be the best version of the Spurs that we get because Wemby's able to handle everything defensively. And so, I think that's something I think maybe more unique in today's day and age where you really need to be in one place on the court just at the very top of the game. And that the trickle-down effect of the rest of the roster just makes things so much easier in the other areas on the court. Anybody else can jump in here.
When you mentioned Shai, I thought you were going to bring up the quote that he had with "My whole life is consistent." That's where I thought you were going with that one. And I feel like that's obviously really important. I'm also glad you brought up, can't remember who brought up Steph. We should have mentioned him in the culture setter conversation.
Yes.
Because he's like the best this era example of that, probably.
I mean, not even that. He sacrificed, right, to get KD. He gave up a run to be, MVP again and things like that, and even Finals MVP and stuff like that. Like there's an element of and sacrifice should be a thing in terms of willing to give up something to get something. And I think that's sort of the thing that's also missing in the conversation.
We're seeing that with Wemby and Brunson, right? Giving up a little bit of money right now, taking that financial haircut, that sets a tone.
Yeah. And, maybe there's some aspiration stuff behind it. Who knows? But I think there's I'm kidding, folks. I don't.
Well, it isn't. I'm just to connect a couple of dots here, though. I thought it was interesting that Wemby did this whole thing, and then it was announced his huge Nike deal shortly after that. And I was like, yeah, I think Wemby's.
Don't do that. Nike. We weren't worried.
No
weren't
collusion. I'm
worried
just saying
about.
it makes it a little bit easier to be like, yeah, I'll give up $10 million a year when you know that Nike deal is coming down.
Well, as a Dodger fan, that's very Shohei centric.
Yeah, and Rick Brunson's getting what, $117 million to be an assistant coach for the Knicks?
No cap on assistant coaches. No, but I think the ability to sacrifice is an important thing. Yeah. And also just understanding, like, yeah, I need to go with all of these guys. I got to watch Chris Paul try to lead. And I mean try to lead. Like, he led for a while, but like you could see it wear on guys from time to time. But like he was aware of like, hey, I need to make sure this guy gets touches, this guy gets, and it goes back to shot creation, for everybody else. But like making sure, hey, Caron Butler's getting touches early, JJ's getting touches, Blake's getting touches. I need to make sure DJ gets a couple of lobs. Like there's a lot of stuff star players have to kind of think about as they go forward with it. Same with Jokic, and another culture setter with that. And it doesn't look like it when we watch Jokic because it doesn't look like he's that much of a culture guy on the floor. But just go back to the fact of like when they traded Bones Highland, they went to him and he was just like, man, fuck Bones. And then they traded him. So it was like, it's along those lines of like they're trying, it's having that understanding as a star player, your role in terms of leading that team.
I have one last question for everybody here, but before we get to that, any one more or one mo things on superstar players?
I had one more, and this is more of an open question for you guys. I don't feel strongly about this. It's not like a major factor, but I do wonder about the role of like marketability and community relationship in making of a star, right? And like we usually associate it with like on-court results. And obviously that's going to be your most important thing. But like I do think there's something to the idea of like these guys who are, stands for their city, who deepen their bonds with the community, who get this like unwavering love from the fan base. And I think if nothing else, that can do something to like prop up the players a little bit to give them more confidence. Can it help the team's bottom line sometimes, right? Can they sell more jerseys? Can they raise ticket prices so that then they can reinvest in the team? I always wonder about like some of the off-court factors with like what makes a star. Because I do think like there's a little bit of something to that, to this like idea of like this charismatic guy who's like really embedding himself in the city.
I mean, I think that's a good one. I think it matters, it's for the fan base, right? Like you want to be able to have the fan base kind of love you in the way that like, look at Minnesota and their bond with their love for Anthony Edwards, right? Like there's a lot of love for him and the way he kind of talks about Minnesota and things like that. And it's almost more important in a small market city than a large market city. Like, be honest with you, LeBron was still a star. LA never really rocked with him. Mm-hmm. Like in the way I think that he hoped or thought he would, he never really came in. There's a large segment of Laker fans that were just kind of have been rooting against LeBron for so long because it was LeBron versus Kobe that when LeBron came, a lot of them stopped caring. To be honest with you, my brother-in-law is a great example. Was a diehard Laker fan. Used to talk shit to me when I worked with the Spurs. Used to annoy the hell out of me, sending me text messages during the games where I'm like, I'm working, dude. I can't, like, not now. But, like, he's a diehard Laker fan. LeBron came, he's out, But then look at what happens. When Luka gets traded here, it's right after the fires here in LA that we're still recovering from. Luka gives donations to that, like he right away, like he's endearing himself to that stuff. It's not a large market problem as much as it is a small market issue where I think they need to have that buy-in from the fans for the star player. So Jokic, Edwards, Wemby, Shea, all the like those cities will put people to death. Or will put themselves on the line for these guys.
Right. I mean, it's LeBron representing Cleveland the way that he did, and then why it hurt so bad when he left and they were burning jerseys, right? The other side of that love is this intense hatred. Yeah, that you think about Kevin Durant with that Lee Jenkins story that he did riding around Oklahoma City and saying, I'll never leave, I love it here. And then a couple of years later, he left, and how badly that fractured that fan base. Last thing here at the buzzer. That's what we're calling this segment. It's an off-topic.
Hold on. Before you go off topic, there's one thing that's really important that we didn't talk about because it's hard to. But It's alignment. The most successful teams have alignment from owner to front office to coach to star players. That's what you need for a successful team. Like, we didn't even mention we're what goes into being a good owner, but like, you need to have full alignment across the board. Everybody needs to be rowing the boat in the same direction. As soon as you have a coach that Mike, you brought up Denver with Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. I love the owner's response, though, of like, fuck it, I'm firing both of you. Like, that's like actually the proper response. Now, there's a lot of questions. There's stuff I don't like about the Cronkies.
Yeah,
but
it's the parent and the two kids that are arguing. It's like, I don't know who started it, so you're both going to timeout.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, so you have, but it's having that ultimate alignment, what makes teams successful and successful for a long time.
I've covered two organizations up close, Golden State and Miami, and what was always, they're very different in a lot of ways, but one way they are very similar is that you talk to anybody in any given day about anything and they'll all tell you the same thing. There's an alignment. There's just like there's a consistent messaging from top to bottom, whether you're talking to the 15th guy on the roster or the owner or the owner's kid, right? Like, they're all saying the same thing about the same things.